for us.
I can clarify that for you.
I think that was my question as well.
At the last regular meeting of the city council, or just prior thereto, it came to the attention of our office, maybe at the work session the day before, that an appeal had in fact been filed due to miscommunication between Occupy Jackson and the special coordinator, that notice of appeal was not received in the proper place. It was determined at that time.
Where is that appeal? I mean, we keep talking about an appeal.
It should have been in your packet.
What page is it? Because I don't see it.
I don't see it.
That may have been inadvertently left out. I have a copy of it and provide that.
Okay, it's the document that's dated 11/2/2011 pursuant to section 14-187 appeal procedure.
Right.
So that's what we're considering as the appeal.
That is what is the notice of appeal. In the second paragraph of that, it delineates that as the notice of appeal. This is a notice of appeal. The ordinance requires that the notice of appeal be filed with a special events coordinator. It's my understanding that Occupy Jackson attempted to contact special events coordinator. It was their intent to file that notice of appeal with them. It was submitted, I believe, to one of the members of the committee who referred them to the city attorney, the city clerk's office, who received the notice of appeal. That was the reason why it was not on the agenda at the last regular meeting, because it had not reached the proper party to be placed on the agenda.
So for the purpose of today, basically, here on November 21st, we're looking at an appeal from today until December 26th, based on this letter. And
That's correct.
And what was approved by special permits was their ability to be at the park, but at the park during regular hours. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Council, let me say this. According to this agenda, what is before us is an order that was authored by Mr. Tableson and Mayor Johnson. According to this,
excuse me, Councilman York, that is an order that was authored by the city attorney's office. I'm actually the one who drew that up. It was submitted by the city attorney's office.
Okay.
That's why it contains the name of Mr. Tableson. The administration did not have a hand in the submission of this order, inasmuch as this is an appeal directly to the city council. It doesn't come from the mayor.
I'm sure he'd like to have his name off of it. My point actually was that what's in front of us is I think is what we should be dealing with, and that is whether or not we're going to entertain reversal in whole or in part the conditional approval of Occupy Jackson's application for a special events permit. And this order in of itself should be our direction. That is my opinion, based on the fact that number one, quite frankly, I think this is a pretty unprecedented situation that we're in. And number two, if it is indeed an appeal, then this appeal did not come to us in the form that we have normally seen it in, that we normally see appeals in. And so, with that being the case, I would say that we take up the item that's in front of us and treat it as such. If we're going to reverse it in whole or in part, or if we're going to accept it, accept or deny what this is. So,
just for some further detail regarding, at the end of last week, I submitted a memorandum trying to give some guidance as to the procedure that we would recommend. Inasmuch as it's an appeal, I believe that it would be appropriate for the applicant, the person submitting the application, to be allowed to speak regarding the application. If there is information that is not sufficiently detailed enough on the application, that the council should be free to ask that applicant questions concerning the deficiency in the information to see if that can be filled in. The same way it would have been filled in at the lower stage in this process. At the conclusion of that, if the council has questions of any persons in the administration who would have relevant information regarding the special event, in other words, does it cause any fire hazard? Is there a problem with the park being open past dusk? Have we ever opened it past dusk? Things of that nature. Then it would probably behoove the council to ask those questions of relevant personnel in the administration. And on the completion of all of that, the council will make a decision. And again, to be clear, since this is an appeal, it would be necessary for there to be a majority vote to overturn the decision of the special events coordinator. It is within the council's purview to, if they decide to expressly affirm the decision, they can so do that by having a majority vote saying we affirm the decision of the special events coordinator. It is our opinion that that's not necessary, in as much as the permit condition is coming as an appeal from a decision that's already been made. In absence there being some change by the city council, that decision would stand.
Mr. President, I think it's safe to say that this is not the format we're used to, but it does speak to an appeal, and we can alter it, do whatever we want to with it. So I move that we just accept this as this item number 5 as an appeal, and let's let the show.
The show roll on.
Yes,
All right, what we'll do at this time, President Blunson has arrived. I just want to catch you up, be sure that you know where we are, because this is a vote that you will be participating in. You need to be fully aware of what you're doing. Up to this point, we have talked about procedure concerning this particular item, whether or not we'll handle it, how we will handle it as an appeal by the occupied group, and how we'll proceed from there. This time, we're also considering how we will handle public comments. There are folk who have signed up for public comment who are on both sides, on opposite sides of the fence. I think that it would actually, in my opinion, but it's the pledge of the council, in my opinion, we would do an injustice if we did not allow both those who are in opposition as well as those who are for this to have an opportunity to say something. There aren't many of them, but I just think that we, during due diligence, we should allow that.
So let me get this straight. Under our technical rules, since this is an appeal, they should not be allowed to do that. But you would like that to happen because just to make sure that they're adequately heard.
No, not to make sure that they're adequately heard alone, but to make sure they're adequately heard because this is a very special situation. It's unprecedented. We've never done this. I've never done this before on this council. We've had to deal with something. Typically, when we deal with appeals, it comes in the form of something from the planning commission. Right. And if they've appealed at the planning, if there's been a situation at the planning commission, they come here. If they were allowed to speak at the planning commission, or if they did speak, then they're allowed to speak to this council. So my question, there was no protocol set.
Right. And I understand. So my question is, what are the time limits we're going to put on this?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. And how many people we get signed up?
We have 8 people.
All right. So do I need to make a motion that we do this?
Or no, but I can do this from the chair.
All right.
Yes, sir, Mayor Johnson.
Just to speak to your point earlier and what Mr. Anderson was saying, perhaps because there may be an appeal of this appeal, so if you can remove my name from it may make sense because it came from the city attorney's office and not the office. So
You can remove your name. You can.
I can.
You can ask that your name. You're asking that your name be removed.
I'm saying that I thought it's consistent with that of the city attorney.
James Anderson, City Attorney's Office. As a matter of the details of the order itself did not contain the mayor's name on it. I'm not completely aware of how his name appeared on it on the agenda. As council is aware, there are 3 bodies that can place items on the agenda, any member of the city council, the mayor's office, and the city attorney's office.
Right.
This matter was one place solely by the city
I
attorney's
put the
office.
name on there because usually doing waters, we usually have propane, so that's.
So we'll ask that you remove Mayor Johnson's name. So no, thank you. Let's move. We'll now entertain public comment. First speaking, 2 minutes. We'll ask that you observe the 2 minutes at your, hold on just a second. So I want to be clear on the instructions about public comment. We're going to ask that the timekeeper, when there's 30 seconds left, if you would raise your hand, that will signify that 30 seconds are left, so that once that 30 seconds is over, she will raise her hand again, and then I will ask that you please cease from your discussion at that time, okay? Who's the timekeeper? May I ask that you improvise today?
We prepared them exactly, like maybe they might be like 2.5.
But I'm going to ask that you, let's compromise that you improvise. Okay, thank you. Can't do it.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm one of the owners of 200 North Congress, which is the only building that's really across from Smith Park. And the reason I came down was basically what I read in the newspaper, was the consideration that they might permit the protesters to stay 24/7. And that's the only thing I'm here to speak against. I certainly realize First Amendment rights need to be upheld, and protesters have the right to protest on certain public property, but I don't think they have the right to stay 24/7 in a public park, in fact, the primary public park in downtown Jackson. We've had some issues already. We've had folks using the restrooms in our building. We've had folks camping out on floors, using telephones that were available for the tenants. We've had folks tearing down our no trespass signs, which the police department asked us to put up. We've had loud rap music played right outside, and as the police came and got that turned down. Those are things that, for a limited period of time, we're certainly willing to put up with. But we feel like that if folks are permitted to stay in the park 24/7 without introducing a whole new range of problems, it also sets precedent for that park. It might be difficult for the council to say this group should have it 24/7, but another group should not have it 24/7. And so we just respectfully ask that that not be permitted. We do want to compliment the Jackson Police Department. They've been very much on the spot and helpful, and certainly most protesters have been very lawful. We are just here to ask for the 24/7 not be extended. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ann Fry?
She's with
Yeah, Mr. Dibben.
Okay, all right, thank you. James Cooper?
Good morning, I'm James Cooper. I'm a Ward 1 resident. And Mr. President, members of the council, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this morning. I'm in support of allowing the people in Smith Park to continue their protest, and in support of allowing them to do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if only because at the core of the Occupy movement is this idea of occupation and persistence and overcoming the physical challenges that protesters face in occupying the park. So I would ask that you reverse the special events coordinator's decision and allow the group to stay in the park as long as they see fit and for as many hours as they see fit as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Lemons? Lindsay Lemons?
I'm not here. I was
Okay.
morning. I'm Lizzie Lemons, and I work for the Mississippi National Guard. And while today's meeting is to address Occupy Jackson's permanent approval, your concern about the merits of the movement has not gone unnoticed. I was chosen by the group to explain to you the overreaching implications of the Occupy movement, and if I feel occupiers will go ahead to explain the details for justification of the special events permit. The impacts of Occupy are already being felt legislatively by Representative Ted Duke's introduction of the Occupy Amendment. This constitutional amendment will accomplish two things. First, it would overturn the Citizens United Supreme Court decisions that wrongly awarded the constitutionally protected free speech rights of people to corporations. Secondly, it totally bans corporate money from Americans' electoral process. While legislation of this type has been attempted none today to succeed, yet this current legislation is gaining notoriety solely based on the merits of the Occupy movement. In addition, lobbyists and special interest groups for the big banks are already gearing up to counteract the political fallout of Occupy, with the American Bankers Association leading the way. The American Banking Association is one of the most powerful lobbyist groups on Capitol Hill and acted as the chief special interest group that pressured Congress and President Clinton into deregulating the financial system, leading to the 2008 financial crisis. Now the American Bankers Association is leading the way again, and their new target is Occupy. They claim that the Democratic Party will try to align itself with Occupy, so this justifies targeting the movement and its participants throughout the 2012 campaign cycle. If Occupy is of no concern, then why are they drawing the attention of one of the biggest special interest groups in Congress? Occupy Jackson stands in solidarity with Occupy Wall Street. The group of Ground Zero in this battle to reclaim our civil rights from the financial institution. Already this movement is motivating 1 million people to participate in Bank Transfer Day, in which people were encouraged to move their money from the big banks to credit unions. They're also gearing up nationally for what is called Black Saturday, in which citizens were encouraged to make purchases from local businesses on the Saturday after Thanksgiving rather than purchasing from big corporations and Black Friday. It is at this point where your business interests as a Jackson City public officials meet with Occupy movement's principles. All these things have been accomplished in the first 2 months of this movement. Imagine this
Bring
time
your comments
next
to a
year.
close, if you would. You can finish it out, but I'm asking you to bring it to a close.
Yes, I got 1 sentence. All these things have been accomplished within the first 2 months of this movement. Imagine this next year. While again this has no bearing on our rights to peacefully assemble in Smith Park, hopefully these facts demonstrate to you the magnitude of the decision made. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you. James Parker. You can raise your hand high so they can see you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is James Parker. I am a power plant operator for Jackson Hospital. Besides our ongoing messages of protest against a system of financial corruption and governmental suppression of our freedoms, Occupy Jackson has become an integral part of the community surrounding the Smith Park area. Here are some examples. Sanitation. We actively clean the park when and where we occupy spaces. We sweep the sidewalks on a daily basis. We change the trash bins when needed, using liners that we purchase, hauling the garbage away ourselves in the area that we're at. Hygiene. We have developed and installed a hygiene program whereby individual participants are given his or her own supply of products, including soap, deodorant, toothbrushes, toothpaste, etc. We also have a hygiene education program whereby to teach the participants the benefits of a good daily hygiene regimen and the subsequent health benefits stemming from that regimen. We have an ongoing laundry service. The way this works is that some of our regular Occupy Jackson volunteers pick up the dirty clothes from those of us who don't have such easy access to laundry facilities and wash them at their own time and expense. Environment. We do our part for the environment. We have started a recycling program for Smith Park using 3 separate receptacles, one for paper, one for plastic, and one for metal. We transport those materials to the Rainbow Co-op, which maintains an open community recycling program. Security. On the matter of security, locals have informed us of the higher safety factors stemming from our presence, which is a testament to our security volunteers who keep a vigilant watch and in good communication with the Jackson Police Department. We're also developing a quality community outreach program whereby volunteers are expected to visit the elderly at area nursing and veterans homes and are welcoming of new ideas on how we can work to benefit the downtown Jackson community. But what may be our most important asset, in addition to our messages of protest, is that we do what we can to feed and clothe our underprivileged brothers and sisters of the area. The mayor spoke earlier about the block grant and that it was a 16% cut. In addition to that, there was a 15% rise in needs for those block grants, and we are helping alleviate some of that. I mean, we're in no whole part of the homeless problem in Jackson, but I just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Nathan Barnes. Make sure they see your hand.
Before I speak, I have a paper here I'd like to give you a copy of. So
Okay.
Good morning, esteemed members of the City Council of Jackson, Mississippi. My name is Nathan Audie Barnes. I was born and raised in Jackson. My first years of education were attained at Davis Magnet Elementary, only a few blocks from here. I have chosen to attend the City Council meeting to address many issues. The main issue I came here to address is the issue of equality pertaining to permits given to Occupy Jackson and other organizations. There are three main permissions Occupy Jackson requires for their permit: porta potties, sound amplification, and overnight occupancy. Before I speak on the justifiable requirements for those commodities, I will address the issue of equality pertaining to permits given. It has come to my attention that permits have been given to other organizations allowing porta potties, sound amplification, and overnight occupancy. For example, Congress Street Bar and Grill, which is adjacent to Smith Park, hosted an event around Halloween. They were allowed to have porta potties, they were allowed sound amplification, and they were allowed to block the street all night for overnight occupancy so that they could have a costume party where they were allowed to consume alcohol on the streets, breaking several city ordinances so that the Congress Street Bar and Grill could make money. I assure you that Occupy Jackson's intentions are of a nobler aspiration. Occupy Jackson is only requesting a few permissions so that so many others were given for their permits. I believe in the interest of equality. Occupy Jackson should be allowed a permit with the same permissions that other organizations such as Congress Street Bar and Grill were allowed for their permit. Porta potties. This is a formal request for the use of porta potties for Occupy Jackson special events in Smith Park. Occupy Jackson needs porta potties not only for their events in Smith Park, but also for the cleanliness of the park itself. I have communicated with several employees of Jackson Sanitation Commission who have told me that on several occasions they had to remove feces from the park grounds. I have also seen for myself on several occasions where someone has defecated in the park. It would be a great service to Occupy Jackson, Jackson Sanitation Commission, and all other citizens of Jackson who come to Smith Park to allow Occupy Jackson the use of porta potties. Help them to make Jackson a cleaner, more beautiful place to live and to visit. Sound amplification. This is a formal request for the use of sound amplification for Occupy Jackson special events in Smith Park. Occupy Jackson requests the use of sound amplification to reach a broader audience. Let me just get it.
Time is up. Thank you.
Really?
Yes, sir. All right. Jacob McGregor.
Make sure I'm not going to hop a lot over here. Councilman, my name is Jacob McGregor. I'm a member of Occupy Jackson. For the past 2 years, I've been an employee of each law firm. I wish it were not necessarily going to stand here before you today. In an ideal world, it wouldn't be, but in an ideal world, this occupation would never have had to happen. I come to you now at a time that is easily one of the most exciting in our nation's history. Sadly, it is also a trying moment. What is decided here today will be recorded in the annals of our state's history and taught to our children and our grandchildren. We of Occupy Jackson come to you today to ask for the right to occupy Smith Park as part of our ongoing protest against corporate greed that has overtaken this great nation. I come to you today as an example of one that should be allowed. This is the last public square in downtown Jackson. There is nowhere else for us to congregate that our message can be so widely heard. Where better to redress our grievances or to publicly assemble, as is our right given to us by the First Amendment of the Constitution? It's been said that the Occupy movement is falling apart. This is simply not true. Even today, this very morning, there are nearly 2,000 cities across the globe and over 83 countries standing in support of this movement. They're standing there for us. If we are truly held to the rights given us by the Constitution of the United States of America, then our asking that you allow us what we've asked for has only one answer, and that is yes. If, however, our rights are only an illusion,
to be given and taken away at the behest of those who do not wish to hear what we have to say, then we are here at your mercy. I ask now that you members of the council stand by us and help make this city a better place where a man's worth is no longer judged by the color of his skin or the money in his pocket, but by the content of his character and his willingness to exercise his rights. The decisions this day will be recorded and taught as the day Mississippi stood once more at the forefront of the fight for liberty, justice, and truth, if only he will stand by us. We are there 24/7, standing on that sidewalk. All we ask is the right to be in the park, a public park that our tax dollars pay for. Thank you.
Chelsea McDonald.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm with Occupy Jackson Incorporated. We are incorporated, and we are actually the first movement to do so. Instead of having a board of directors in our corporation, we have the General Assembly. It's a process of direct democracy in the way we make decisions. This particular occupation is also hoping to make historical moves in the council today. The corrupt nature of various forms of government is what we are protesting. We're protesting a government that's no longer for the people, by the people. But City Councilman, by you listening to me here today, you have proved that not every form of government has removed its true responsibility to its people. And by granting us this permit, by allowing us to use our First Amendment rights without fear of persecution until we see justice, you have allowed us to work with the law and work with our local government, which is the first direction that you take when you want change anyway. Y'all the first people that we come to. You're returning the power to the people. I mean, this is what America was founded on. And we all know that. My fight and my struggle, it's your struggle too. And when asked when I didn't target a problem like crime, I replied with, sir, I'm not qualified to apprehend a murderer or a burglar, but my JPD is. And they'd be the first ones that I call. They have protected me several times in that park when I felt threatened. But anytime I've called them, they made sure that I was safe. Now, and all of them are working 2 jobs, and they're exhausted from pulling too much overtime due to budget cuts. Their equipment, their labs, their weaponry is anything but the best. Their children are being kept from an education because they, as police officers, can afford it. So they leave the force because they don't want to die too young. How much crime do you think can really be fought? We're fighting for the same things: equal representation, equal voices, justice, and a real democracy. I would sincerely pray with all that I have that the city of Jackson be a leading example for our local governments around the country. They will be the first. We will be the first to our local government allow us to protest this, to remind its citizens that they have not been forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eugene Lockhart.
I had apologized to you, and I don't know why. But I did. Ordinarily, I'm pretty sure I would come up with a speech. But I didn't go with that. These other 2 orders on it. It's hard to understand. The lawyer, the black lawyer, he's not here. He's so
Mr. Lockhart, pull the microphone down. I can't hear you.
well, I'm just chit-chat, really. But I really want you to know that I didn't know those first 2 orders on here. It means something to me. I didn't come here to pound up. I come here to listen to these issues. And I'm fine. You know what I'm talking about. I need a lawyer. The last time I spoke, which was the last time we met regularly, I don't know how I can act, but it's an act. I didn't know this first 2 orders. I've been speaking here 20 years waiting for those 2 orders. Literally. All of a sudden, it's like I got something wrong with me. Then I'm on my eye. Now, at least y'all possibilities. But, you know, if you can find anywhere written or the spoken that these 2 orders will be met today, I quit. Thank you.
Ms. Pittman. Last speaker.
Thank you. At the foot of the cross, everything and everybody is equal. And I would hope that it would be the same way with this city council. Since living in Jackson, since I was 12 years old and now I'm 77, I have experienced that everything has not been equal for us as a people.